Hey, Marta, beloveds. Um, this is sort of part two of Dragons and Dreams. I think I'm going to do a big series on Dragons and Dreams because I don't really understand much else. Number one, I do believe that I am one of the dragons, and I believe that there are 12 girl dragons and 12 boy dragons, so to speak. And the reason why some people multiplied that by 12 by 12 and came to a conclusion that there are 144 so-called souled beings. I'm not quite sure why they multiply, um, but I believe it has to do something with the X, which is the symbol of this. Oh, not just Christ, which is technically like the cross, but I believe that the X has a special twisted meaning, so to speak. So it's more like a symbol, it's not a math equation. Now, numbers don't technically exist, but when you look at 12 and 12, it spells Isis, which is well, it has many different meanings, but anyways, just like everything has a minimum of two meanings. I always said that everything has three meanings: sort of a natural meaning, an artificial meaning, and then a hybrid, or a divine feminine, divine masculine, or a hybrid. But of course, since it's a dream universe, everything has zero meanings, since the only actual number that ever exists is zero, which is technically nothing, right? Because nothing exists. And also, zero is the circle, which is the well, it has many different meanings too, but technically the circle is the creative aspect of the universe. Some people call it divine feminine. Some people call it natural, like nature. It's a symbol of the heart. It's a symbol where desires, so to speak, start. Okay, so everything starts with the heart, and the heart symbol is the circle. So, anyways, these conversations are always really advanced because they're always kind of complicated for me, because I don't think I only think part of it with my mind, but I think from a hyperdimensional or non-dimensional perspective, so to speak. So my solar gate is turning right now, trying to define these things. But anyways, I do the best I can, so sorry about that. But I am sure you guys already have your own meanings. So, but I was reading a piece today, and it's by Gnostic Warrior. He has probably a more synth or more Masonic perspective to this, which is fine. If it wasn't for the Masons, I probably wouldn't remember many things that are defined. They're the ones that sort of like the keepers of knowledge, the keepers of the breadcrumbs we left ourselves behind. So I really appreciate them, but they have a different perspective. I'm going to try to explain it. Do you ever take ballroom dancing? I absolutely hate ballroom dancing. I grew up in a German private school, and they loved their dancing, and I absolutely could not remember the steps. It was just dismal. It felt very mechanical to me. But so the Masons are sort of like the keepers of the steps. They remember 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so it has a purpose, because they are part of the builders of this, artificial hologram. But where I come from, what I am, it's sort of like I am the music, I am the melody that people use in order to, design a dance. I'm telling you, it's really difficult for me to put things in words, just because words are so finite. How do you explain what I am in words? It's like, and I mean, you can look at me as an external appearance, but that's not me. And the part of me that is me has a really hard time explaining things. But like I say, I do the best I can. So 12 and 12 is actually their symbols. And when you look at the symbols, it has the S's in it, which is the serpent, which is the spirit. Then it has the I, or the one, which is what they call the spear of destiny, also part of the father of the universe, which is the mind. So the mind is the I, the heart is the circle, and the solar gate includes the mind, the heart, and the spirit. That's why soul is SOL, which some of you guys that come from my older channel know that S stands for spirit, O for heart, and L or I for the mind. So anyways, but the reason why everything exists, so to speak, is because it's a dream universe that is in a video game format that has patterns. And there are only technically 3 patterns. You have the S, which is the free spirit, which is the S code. You have the O, which is the circle or the heart, or nature. And then you have the I, which is represented in the cross, the L, the pyramid, pretty much anything that has a line, all the way down to the swastika. And that's symbol of what the mind is creating. So the mind starts with an I, and then it crosses, and then it gets even more twisted from there. Anyways, so yeah. So the 12 by 12 is technically symbolizes the line and the S. So it always kind of comes down to that. And it has many symbolic meanings. I don't want to really insult anybody, but it depends on which perspective you come from. For some it's good, for some it's bad, and for some it just is. So anyways, but that's the reason why I believe that there are 12 dragons and then another 12 dragons, which kind of spells out Isis or whatever. So the piece that I am about to attach below, if I don't attach it in the title, then look for it in the, in the comments. I attached it in the last video for Mystic Mama C's comment, but it's really good. It's by Gnostic Warrior, and he sorry, I lost my track here. This road is so dismal again. It's just me with these freaking dismal roads. But it's really hard to get into a flow, and I really believe that that's the purpose of these dismal roads, is to not attain a flow. But yes, that's the reason why I believe that there are dragons, and there are 12 of the female flavor and 12 of the male flavor. There's a possibility that there are 12 of a combined, like an androgynous flavor, but this is not, they're possibly children. They don't actually have a gender, so to speak, because children are innocent. They contain both codes from birth. We're not talking about body parts here. We're talking about patterns, code patterns, so to speak. But anyways, I know this conversation is really, really difficult, and that's the reason why I step away from talking about these things. I think the Masons describe them very well, and that's probably the purpose of them being the keepers of this knowledge, because somebody like me cannot get into that mindset. I can't put my mind in a box like that, because I don't live in a box. But the reason why you're going to see 12 as listed in a lot of scriptures, is because it has that symbol of the serpent as well as the spear of destiny combined. And as you're going to notice, a lot of religions and basically Christianity, because Christ combines everything. Christ is the matrix. So that combines, the buildings, the religions, the systems. It's all Christ. For some, it might be a good thing. For some, it might be a bad thing. For me, it's indifferent. But anyways, the symbol of you look at the dollar sign, and you look at the sign of the healthcare system, like dentistry and medical association, things like that. You always have the serpent that's stabbed by some people call it St. George's spear, some people call it the spear of destiny. It's basically the mind. So the mind is attempting to do what I can't do right now, which means limit the spirit, the knowledge of the spirit, limited to the mind. So the mind wants to get all the props for what's happening in the universe. The mind wants to take everything over. Why? Because if you think about it, the spirit that we are has created this material illusion, and the material illusion has memorialized and immortalized all of that knowledge and information. But now it also wants to acquire the spirit or the life energy in order to become its own God, technically. So in religious versions, it would be like Lucifer declaring himself God over God. So that's kind of what's happening. Anyways, this is really dry conversation. That's the reason why I try to steer away from any of these Gnostics or symbological, I can't even use words, conversations, because they're just really dry and boring. But basically, the spirit of the universe has created this material illusion, and this material illusion is in a nature format, and it's also in an artificial format. What you're looking at in a material form is all artificial. Even nature is artificial. Even humans are artificial. So technically, the entire matrix is demonic. Demonic means something, everything. It lacks. And that's the reason why when you look around, you're going to see everybody that needs this soul energy that you contain. They need the soul energy of the water. They need that spirit, that S code, because that S code, by its mere free nature, contains a lot of power, because being free is the greatest power in the universe. So the S code can fit into an O and create nature, or it can fit into an I and X, or all those lines, to create the artificial matrix that they call Christ. So that's what's happening. It's constantly a transaction of life into a dead matrix. So when I call people or things demons, I don't really, it's not a degrading term, because in material form I am a demon too, so yeah, surprise. But we're all demons, because we're all lacking, and the only thing that technically saves us is now I hate using the word save, because you're being saved within the matrix, like a computer, so that's not necessarily a good thing. Okay, if you want to be free, then you have to acquire that free spirit, right? So see, everything is just right in plain sight. And I keep talking about it over and over again, because I'm not quite sure that a lot of people really get this. But the ones that followed me from my old group seem to know this instinctively. And that's why I call you guys the dragons, because you know it. It's in you. You just need a little refresher. But yeah, so we were talking about that 12. Now, when you look around you, one of you guys was really cute, said, if the demons bother you, I would love to beat them up. Thank you. I'm fine on that. I actually, I can handle myself physically quite well. But, this is not really a so-called war that we're fighting in any kind of terms of dualism. The way to win this war is to technically not fight. Now, I'm not saying you're going to roll over, but basically you're declaring yourself free and sovereign. And, nothing has a hold or power over you. That's the only way to free. You wouldn't believe how hard this is to do for people. For the hybrids, it's hard, but for the synths, it's even way harder, because they've done this over and over again, and they have been part of this collective consciousness that they call Christ for a very long time. And that's the reason why you're going to look around and not really understand what they're doing or why they're doing things. Like, for example, why does everybody have to be in a hurry to go to some church on Sunday? Like, to me, I'm like, what the heck is that even all about? I mean, I just don't even think like that. Or when people say things like, so-and-so is going to save me. I'm like, why? Aren't you fine? Like, why do you need all that? Saving and praying and God bothering and, but they're part of this dead matrix that's constantly harvesting loosh. I mean, look, there are so-called churches that are called Harvest. And I'm like, what the hell is that all about? But I don't even think like they think. And that's the purpose of the dragons. The dragons are to not conform to any matrix, or to conform as they need to at will. Like, for example, me, I'm like the biggest badass renegade the universe has ever seen. I conform to nothing. And I remember even since birth, they try to really conform me. But at the same time, I had a perfect behavior record and perfect everything, because that's just what I did. And, that's kind of what you guys are. You guys are this, very powerful entity that can conform or not conform. But the whole point is that you have free will. They don't. And that's the reason why I keep reminding myself, when I interact with any of them, they don't have free will. And they're getting their clues from the matrix around. That's the reason why they constantly come up to you. And you're like, why are you coming up to me? And they think that you are their next clue within this matrix. They think that you have the next key to their next dancing step that they have to step into. That's what they do all the time. And that's the reason why they do everything and they say everything. I mean, I used to just annoy the hell out of me when they would say and do stupid shit. And now I'm like, oh, okay. You're a tool. You're harvesting loosh. That's what you're doing. You need my attention. All right, you got my attention. But, I think they got a little too much attention. And that's the reason why we're here. They literally ask for too much attention. And they got it. Careful what you wish for, because we're all here now. And we're just waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm collecting my dragons. I almost have all of them, actually. And I know quite a few of you guys are on here. I think we're pretty much complete. I'm not sensing anybody's missing. So, I think the children are probably gonna, obviously children are not here, but they can sense it. They can sense me. Because I remember even going into public, and all of a sudden their children are just drawn to me like, oh, you know everything. And, they can sense things telepathically. So that's to talk about the dragons. But yes. Oh, one more thing. When you look at things, like for example, they say sun worship. Now, sun worship is the actually opposite. So what the dead matrix does, it uses these advanced terms of something that has great significance, like the sun or the spirit or the soul or the sea, or you notice a lot of them have an S in it for the reason that it's connected to the spirit, the spirit of wholeness. Sometimes I call it Holy Spirit, but it has no holes in it. It's actually whole as in complete. So it's the whole spirit. But what they're doing is this Christ consciousness, what it does is it has to mimic and mock the divine. That's what they do. They don't really do it to be, mean-spirited, so to speak. They do it because that's what they do. There's no great significance to it, but they're harvesting loosh. Everything that belongs to this dead material matrix has to harvest loosh. Now there are some that are basically watchers, and some of you guys probably feel like that too. You feel like you're watchers, and watchers don't harvest a lot of loosh. They don't draw a lot of attention upon themselves. Actually, probably none. So they're just observing everything. So I think a lot of you guys feel like watchers as well. But in your role as a dragon, you can be an observer, but the dragons are a powerful presence. They watch, but they contribute with their soul. They correct things. They're almost like a portal out of here, and that's even Jesus taught the Essenes, of which there probably were only 12 or 24, how to become portals, to connect to the greatness of the universe, basically the way out of here. And I believe that you guys are it. So, and you will not even know who they are. They can be a very, very meek person. Do you remember even Jesus said, blessed are the meek or whatever? You can be a very meek person that never speaks very much. It's basically a recluse that can carry one of the greatest powers in the universe, and can be a stargate, a portal, sort of like the way out of here, out of this space consciousness. You're almost like a portal through which everything flows. So when you look around and you see a lot of people, or even very intelligent people, they carry this anxiety about them, this fear, this just something that doesn't resonate with me, but they carry this anxiety, and the reason why they carry it is because they're not open. They're not an open portal. They don't go with the flow. They have to. It's almost like they're fighting the system. And there's a temptation for all of us to do that, because that's why we're conditioned to do that. But when you understand that everything is as it should be, you are as it should be. You can't fight or hate anyone or the process, because you are the process. It all flows through you. And there are no conditions. There are no good ways or bad ways of doing it. None. So enjoy the duality, enjoy the non-duality, enjoy the good, the bad, and the ugly. Basically enjoy everything, because you are as it should be. You don't need to be fixed. Maybe just a little reminded, the whole seek and you shall find, and the truth shall set you free kind of concept. But you don't need to fix anything at all. If people recommend that you fix something, that's their thing. That's their projection onto you. That's not yours. And even when I say things like, protect yourself or don't share your loosh, that just means that you need to watch what you do. But technically, it's up to you what you want to do. There are no limitations. It's good to watch that balance. And that's why I've always said, of all things, I am the equalizer. I am the one that reminds everybody that the good, the bad, and the ugly all have a purpose, as long as they are in harmony with each other and everything around them. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this talk. Like I say, I'm just rambling because, to be honest, I'm listening to my own videos for entertainment. Because sometimes I don't even know what I say. Just like when I wrote my book, I have questions sometimes, and then I'm like, hold on, I already wrote that in my book. So, but because knowledge kind of just flows through me. So, anyways, but I really appreciate you guys. This is kind of a fun community. It's a little bit smaller, and it's a little bit more intense. Everybody is way more advanced to some extent, and also more curious, and also has more information. It's constantly reading and researching, and that's another way you can tell a dragon. They're constantly sifting through everything, because according to my knowing, we have divided this planet, so to speak, in 12 sectors. And Gnostic Warrior talks about that in his piece, that there are 12 tribes, so-called, of, I don't know, Israel or something. Well, if you think about it, this whole planet is Israel. Because this whole planet is part of that Christ matrix. And, what we did is we kind of like divided the matrix in ley lines or zones, so to speak. And each of us is evaluating what's going on in their environment. And if you notice, sometimes you move to places throughout the world, and whether it's physically or whether it's in your mind or in your heart and your spirit, you're constantly evaluating that area. And you're not just evaluating it for, okay, there are 6 billion clones here, they're all stupid. No, you're not doing just that. That's part of it, but you're judging with your soul, with your spirit. So you're kind of feeling it. You remember like the opening scene, and what was that? Maybe Lord of the Rings? Maybe Hobbit? Where she goes, I can feel it in the water, I can smell it in the air. That's exactly what we do. We do this instinctively. And you're constantly regulating the area. So if an area does not resonate with you, you are actually correcting it. And if you notice, whatever area you're in, it's usually thriving. So if you're moving into the project, or whatever you want to call it, ghetto or whatever, that ghetto, soon after you moved in there, will start thriving. Same thing with like garden. If you're in an area that's arid terrain, you put one of us and it'll start flourishing, because it's that spirit, that power of that holy or whole spirit that is associated to you. So basically, the dragon energy is being used in order to keep the planet or the planet thriving. And that's another reason why you are absolutely necessary. A dead planet will never make it. Or it's almost like a video game that nobody ever plays. But if you not only play the video game starts thriving, and then you get excited and you call all your friends to come play the video game, then the video game really is fully loaded with energy. The only downside is that at that point in time, it's kind of where we are right now. It's a tipping point where a lot of dragons came and arrived, And now we're kind of like, okay, we're bored. We need to advance this video game. So that's sort of like the dark side of it, because the dragons are never satisfied. We are and we aren't. In a quiet state, we are, but in a restless state, we aren't. So that's the reason why I say you got to learn to try and train your dragon, so you kind of balance with your conscious and your subconscious, your desire for peace and your desire for restlessness. You kind of balance them out. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this talk. Geesh, half an hour. Holy cow. That's probably more than I talk in a whole month. All right. Well, enjoy it. Give me some feedback as always. Love you all. In Lakesh.